All right, hello, I am Houston Barba. This is my lesson plan assignments presentation. I will be doing a lesson for 8th grade English relating to Gothic literature. So for materials, they're going to need a, I will be printing out text copies of The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, uh, highlighters, and a pen or pencil for annotating, and they will need a laptop or other internet connected device for digitally submitting their and working on their assignments and their assessment later on. For my standards, we will determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in a text, including figurative and connotative meanings, analyze the impact of specific word choices on meaning and tone, including analogies or allusions to other texts. For the second standard, by the end of the year, proficiently and independently read and comprehend literature, including stories, dramas, and poetry, in a text complexity range determined by qualitative and quantitative measures appropriate to grade 8. Our objective: students will be able to analyze meaning and tone of Gothic literature through the use of specific word choices and use of figurative language. So to start off the lesson, I will have these slides here, just an introduction to Gothic literature to start off with, uh, just a little bit of background to get them interested, and also um, right here towards the bottom, uh, I've included a couple of famous pieces of Gothic literature that have survived into the modern day: Frankenstein, Dracula, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Fall of the House of Usher. Just a couple of things to sort of get them hooked. Names that you still hear often in this sort of horror and fiction worlds, that they probably are familiar with, that they might not know have their roots in Gothic literature all the way back 18th, 19th century. Um, just to get them hooked real quick. Um, After that, I have a couple slides to go over the elements of Gothic literature with them, just a handful of important elements that often appear in said works of writing. Uh, so atmosphere and setting, atmosphere of mystery and suspense, omens and visions, and I tried to include some examples on all of these slides of uh, what each of these might include in a piece of Gothic literature. Supernatural events, a flawed protagonist, a woman in distress, metonyms. I included a little description of metonyms in there too, just to explain, because it is a basic concept that um, they probably know, but might not have heard that word specifically used to describe it. Um, High emotion. Um, and then after that, I just had a little refresher. This should be probably background knowledge at this point. Figurative language. Uh, so, similes, metaphors, hyperboles, allusions, alliteration, and personification. Just a couple of important basic figurative language that they should probably already have in their minds, but just to remind them of what each of them means, because they will be relevant later on to the discussion and the assignments. Uh, so our main focus of the class would be on on the narrative poem, The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Um, so all the students will have been given a copy of the poem, and I will be uh, reading it with them. We will be reading it as a class. And during that, I would like them to highlight examples of figurative language and also underline elements of Gothic literature that they find in there that they're able to identify. Um, Kind of as a check-in. Uh, there's a couple of like important parts in the story that I'd like to stop at to be able to discuss with them, but also um, I'd like to be able to check in with them and say, you know, maybe call on a student, hey, what's an example that you found? What is an example of alliteration? Or um, why might this specific thing be, uh, how does that convey like the elements of Gothic literature? Um, and then I will also be annotating as well and share that with them. Not during, I do want them to annotate on their own, but I will during those check-ins just show some of my own observations. Maybe if they aren't understanding as much, um, just to demonstrate and explain with them a little bit and step back for a second and show them what I see and explain it to them a little better. And then there's the text. So after the reading, uh, all the students will, in this scenario, they will have a partner or a partner group that they will be able to discuss with. Um, so what are the themes that Poe presents in the Raven? Uh, that's a little more of a base level taxonomy sort of question. And then how does the speaker's attitude towards the Raven change as the poem progresses? And what does that say about how he processes his emotions of grief? So a little more advanced level thinking, something for them to maybe debate about amongst themselves. And then afterwards, uh, you know, I do kind of want to still keep them uh, engaged, and you know, I will be randomly calling and be making sure that they are prepared to speak if called upon. They know this. um, then for an assignment, um, it's a very discussion heavy sort of class that I'd like to do. So for their assignments, basically, I would just like them to either by the end of the day or uh, to turn in a response to this prompt here. Uh, I wanted them to have a little being able to analyze a piece of text that they find and explain in their own words um, how this specific excerpt that they take out um, helps to develop or enhance the themes of the writing. So choose an example of figurative language from the text. That's obviously these are all incorporating our standards uh, in regards to being able to analyze figurative language, um, and also to be able to understand and comprehend literature. We're looking at a poem, and it is a specific genre. Uh, and then for our assessment, this will be a bit of a larger project, um, a writing project where I will have the students create their own piece of Gothic literature in the form of a narrative poem, akin to something like the Raven, um, probably around that length as well. I would like it to be at least 1 page in length. I feel like that's a good size for their grade level. Uh, because obviously I there is a little bit that I want them to include. I want them to at least 3 examples of figurative language um, that we went over earlier in class, as well as 3 different elements of Gothic literature. And I feel that that 1 page length, a full page uh, should be enough for them to fit that. Obviously, I hope for them to uh, go for more, obviously, but minimum, I think that should be able to cover it. That's it. That was it for my presentation.